I like our theme
Good
music.
afternoon. All right, we are here with another live Q&A with Dr. Niki Davis and the amazing Dr. Jeff Pierce from Lifestyle Telemedicine. Thank you so much, everyone, for whoever is joining us today for our monthly Q&A session where we try to answer questions that you've either submitted ahead of time. You can send us a message through our website. If you have our email, you can call us. You can even submit your questions live. So wherever you're watching from, if it's YouTube or Facebook, you can put your questions in the comments and we will get to however many we can. But the first question is for all of you. Where are you watching from? We'd love to see where people are hanging out. How are you doing today, Jeff? Dr. Pierce, I should say.
Well, yeah. Jeff, please. I feel like we know each other now. No, I'm doing really well. It is a cool and cloudy and a little bit misty day over here in Northern California, and I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good. I have to say that description of your morning sounds quite lovely. I mean, you've got even like a warm drink that you're sipping. It sounds nice. All right, looks like we have someone from Florida. Thank you for watching. Palm Desert. Awesome. I think that's where you and I met for the first time in person.
Yes,
Was in Palm
at
Desert.
the Plantrician Conference. Yeah.
Yep, at the Marriott there.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
everybody probably already knows, but the Plantrician Conference is a great place to go to meet like-minded folks who are into food as medicine, and just the folks at Plantrician do such a wonderful job with their conference every year.
Yeah, they really do. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, we even rented some bikes and went on a bike ride around the hotel. You remember that?
Yes, with Mr. Anthony Masiello, and yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, so the co-founder of Lifestyle Telemedicine, Anthony, he, we'd all met each other through Zoom and online, but all of us live in different places. All the doctors and the people who work at Lifestyle Telemedicine are all over the place. And so when you meet someone in person, you've only seen this part of them. It's interesting. I was shocked at how tall Anthony is and how short Kim is, Dr. Scheuer.
Yeah, equal amount of energy, regardless of body mass.
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Scheuer makes up for it. You were not impressed by how tall I was. I can see, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think you're pretty average.
I hear that. I get that a lot.
I wasn't underwhelmed, but not overwhelmed either.
Fair enough.
All right. So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to tell you what I did this weekend. I was speaking at this really cool fall festival held by the good folks of Baker Creek Seeds. And for folks who don't, who might not know about them, they do a wonderful job of pretty much just offering heritage varieties, heirlooms from the US, but also Asia, Africa, Latin America, Europe. And so you can, you go and buy the seeds from them, from, tomatoes from Siberia and squash from Thailand and stuff like that. And they do amazing stuff, but they also pay attention to health and know the importance of plants and health. And so I gave a talk with my friend John Kohler from Growing Your Greens YouTube channel, and we talked about the health benefits of growing some of our own food, and it was just a blast. They put on a really fun festival out in Mansfield, Missouri, so I recommend folks to check that out.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I am curious about that, getting seeds from different, heirloom seeds from all over the place. Is there any concern with, trying to keep things local. I don't know. Is there any concern with that? Using
It's a good
seeds
question.
from a different place that have not been seen in your local area?
Yeah, it's a good question. So they follow the rules and laws of making sure that they are bringing in plants that shouldn't be, like super invasive or have problems. That becoming a seed, for example, you shouldn't worry about harboring pests and diseases and stuff like that. It's a much safer way to do it than trying to bring plants across borders. And Two, sometimes by having this huge variety, you might find that this one thing from Kenya works super well in the Utah environment, and it might be, a better zucchini, for example, than maybe a more limited variety, especially with climate change. But I will say that even though Baker Creek, of course, I'm touting how amazing they are, some of the best seed in the world are the ones that you collect and keep from season to season, because then they're hyper evolved to your locale. So knowing whoever is collecting seed in your community is often the best way to go.
Great. All right. So feel free to start submitting questions, but before we get to any questions, sorry, Anthony's in the background, he's ready to go. Before we get to that, something that is coming up soon, Dr. Pierce, if you want to just talk about this a little bit, is Dr. Greger has a new book, and I know there's a webinar tomorrow about how to decrease LDL with, I think, both diet and supplements, if I remember right. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about that? We wanted to kind of, just because this is kind of new, we wanted to chat a little bit about this today before we get into any of the questions from people.
For sure. Everybody knows and loves the great work by Dr. Michael Greger, a friend of ours, who we've been honored to have on our show before. He and his team at nutritionfacts.org comb the medical literature for the news on what is healthy in our diet, so that we don't have to spend approximately 23.5 hours of every day trying to keep up with that literature. They do it for us, and then put it in these concise videos, and compile the information into really entertaining and helpful books. His How Not to Die, How Not to Diet, How Not to Age, How Not to I think the next one's coming up. It's going to be on cancer. But one that I believe, just self-published. And the cookbooks too, by the way, which are great, very beautiful. He just self-published a book called Lower LDL Cholesterol Naturally with Food. And he is scheduling a free webinar tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Unfortunately, I believe the cutoff date to register for it might have been yesterday, but it is not too late to order the book. It is it's in paperback for $15, and it is also available as a audiobook and as a ebook. And Anthony, I'm going to put that, I'm going to try to do this. Yes, I'm going to put that link in the chat, but if it's kind of a long link. You could also just go to drgreger.org and look up his products. And basically, it's, of course, all the proceeds from his stuff goes directly to charity. But if you want to wait, I'm sure he'll be coming out. He'll just be posting these videos onto nutritionfacts.org eventually.
Great.
So go ahead.
Oh, so did you watch something, or did you attend something recently where you did get some of this information already that's going to be in the book?
Yes, just recently, the Exam Room podcast, as hosted by our friend Chuck Carroll, the weight loss champion. He did an interview with the Exam Room podcast from PCRM, and they had a nice conversation about, the good and bad about statin medications to lower our cholesterol, the new guidelines sort of prompting that lower is better across the board, instead of just saying, oh, could you get your LDL, your bad cholesterol down to a certain number? They just kind of want it as low as possible, the new national guidelines. And so instead of putting, Lipitor in the water, because it does come with its set of pros and cons, what foods can we put in our diet every day to naturally lower our cholesterol? And so he had criteria that basically says, while a lot of things might lower our cholesterol 1 or 2 points or 3 points, and even 2 or 3 points on a national level makes a huge difference with public health, but on a personal level, he was going for the biggest bang for the buck. And he said, okay, based on research studies, he was going to pick the top 10 or 15 that will lower your LDL by 10 points. And I'll give one away, or maybe we talk about two, but one that is super cheap and super available was an eighth of a teaspoon of garlic powder. Was one of those that lowers our LDL cholesterol by 10 points or more. And that's amazing, because it's not, he's not saying that we have to eat like half a pound of saffron or one of these super expensive spices. But an eighth of a teaspoon a day of garlic powder is cheaper than water, and something that we can all do. And another one that he mentioned that was new to me was sumac. And do you ever eat sumac, Dr. Davis?
Yeah, well, so I'm curious to know what dose. Do you remember how much he recommended for that?
That one I'm not sure, but I think it was something like a half a teaspoon. But don't quote me
Okay.
on that. It's a small amount.
Yeah, I'm familiar with sumac. I have used ground sumac berries as a salt alternative. This was something I'm trying to remember where I learned about that. I want to say when I was interning at True North, Kathy Fisher did a food demonstration, and she was showing some of her salt alternatives, and I think that was one of them. And so I tried it. I really liked it. So then I ended up buying it. So that is one of the salt alternatives that I'll use at home. It's black, so it almost looks like pepper when you put it over the top of
Mhm.
your food, but it has kind of a tangy, lemony flavor. So yeah, boy, that would be interesting, if you can use that as a salt alternative. And by the way, it helps decrease cholesterol. That would be fantastic. But
That
that's
sounds
also
awesome.
something pretty easy. Yeah, it's easy to find. You can easily get it online from any spice shops.
We have confirmation from our audience. Dr. Scheuer says half a teaspoon of sumac per day. And where I came across, thank you, Kim. One of the spices that I like it as part of a blend is za'atar spice, which is a Middle Eastern spice, which is often toasted sesame seeds, thyme, sumac, and salt. It usually comes with salt, but I guess you can probably find salt-free za'atar. And that is a great one, often used for like if you're doing a dipping sauce, or it could be sprinkled on top of hummus, and things like that. So anyway, isn't it great when you can find foods that happen to be really tasty and are also good for you? I think he says he divides the categories into tasty, neutral, and sort of disgusting. And so he has various ways to to counteract the flavors that aren't very enjoyable. So looking forward to learning more from it, and spread the word about those books and audiobooks and stuff for folks who are working on lowering our cholesterol, because of course heart disease is the main cause of death in adults in the United States. 1 out of 3 Americans die from it, and the main driver of heart disease is our elevated LDL cholesterol.
Yeah, so this is a big topic, and I know with us working in lifestyle medicine, we often get to see people's cholesterol improve just by making dietary changes in general. So not necessarily adding garlic powder or sumac, but just changing from more of a standard American high processed food, high animal food diet to a lower fat, whole food, plant-based diet seems to make a huge difference. I mean, I'm sure you've seen huge decreases in those numbers with the patients you see, but I mean,
Yes.
I think I've seen a 100-point change within a week. It's pretty incredible. So we know what makes the biggest difference. But I will say I do have a few of those patients where they've done everything right. They're eating a really healthy diet. Their BMI is in the normal range. They're getting good exercise, good sleep. And despite that, their cholesterol maybe their LDL is a little over 100. It's not quite down into, below the 100 mark, which, like you said, maybe that's not even enough. Maybe we would need it to be even lower than that. But no matter what they do, they seem to just not be able to get that cholesterol lower. So it is nice to be able to see that there are additional things that you can do that may help improve cholesterol further. There are some things that, I think that you and I mean, our group of doctors have talked about that can possibly help. So I'll be curious to see if the things that we recommend to our patients are similar to the things that he's found. Because I know specifically, we've talked about maybe adding fiber to the diet, like not just in the foods that you eat, but also like specifically buying like psyllium husk fiber and adding that to your diet to help with cholesterol improvement. Ceylon cinnamon, I know, is another one. Soy products. So yeah, I'll be curious to get that book and see how it looks compared to what we already recommend to people.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. It's a great topic, and he always puts out good stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting down into the weeds.
All right, great. Well, and so if you can't join that webinar tomorrow, it sounds like it's probably already past the time that you can join it. You can still, like you said, you can still find that book, and then eventually I'm sure there will be plenty of videos that you can watch and information on his website, nutritionfacts.org, where you can get more information about that. And then, of course, if you want to meet with one of our doctors, we're passionate about what we do, and so we're always learning. The new, anything new that's coming out that can help us do better for our patients. We will make sure we stay on top of that so that we can help you in those situations.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Anything else on that topic, Dr. Pierce?
I think that was it.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's get to some questions. We've got Anthony helping us out in the background. So if you want to pop up our first question. All right. Does this say Reve Reynolds? My screen is kind of small, so it's hard to read. But so what's your advice regarding flu and COVID vaccinations for those who travel internationally and have long flights? Otherwise, follow a healthy, whole food, plant-based lifestyle. Yeah, so I will say this one's a little tricky because I think it's very personal, and I think it's something that you want to have a good conversation with your provider about your own risks for flu and COVID, and if you are at increased risk of becoming ill or even dying from flu or COVID. And so there are, and even now getting vaccinations, there are certain stipulations on that. I think COVID requires that you have to be over 65 or have comorbidities that are listed. I'm not sure what the most recent recommendations are for that, but I don't think that there's a blanket statement on whether or not everyone should go off and get these vaccinations or no one should get them. I think that it's definitely a conversation you need to have with your physician on what you're doing. So traveling internationally would be one of those things, but also what is your own personal medical history, and then talking through the benefits of vaccination and the possible side effects. because there are side effects from vaccinations as well. So, so for me, I think that this is something that I love to talk to my patients about, but it is more of a personal conversation for each person. What do you think, Dr. Pierce?
Yeah, I agree with that. Nikki, uh, a lot of, so I think about vaccines for personal health and for public health. I think, so flu is a good one that we've had around is a vaccine that we've had around for a long time. And that's kind of a discussion we've had, both with patients, family, and just kind of internally with ourselves, as a 47-year-old healthy guy, I'm not particularly worried about dying from flu. I think when you add comorbidities like diabetes, emphysema, heart disease, these things, and when you get when you get older, that personal risk increases. Um, I wish I could say that if when I get my vaccine for flu, that it's going to 100% prevent me from getting the flu. It's not that good. It can help, but it's just not 100%. Very few things in life are. But from a personal level, I don't think the flu vaccine is particularly helpful for me. I get it every year because I'm a physician and I see folks, of all ages, and stages, and degrees of health and sickness. And so, no one wants to be responsible for passing flu on to anybody, even if it just makes them feel crummy for a week. But you certainly don't want to be responsible for giving it to your 95-year-old sick patient in the hospital, and that leads to their death, right? So from a public health standpoint, it makes more sense for me personally to get it than for a personal reason. I think same holds true now for COVID. When COVID first came out and the strain was deadlier and we knew less about it, and we were all I think many of us were very scared because lots of people were dying from it. I think I was excited to get it for myself personally and for the public health reasons for it. Um, you know, uh, now there's some herd immunity from natural infections and from vaccines. The strains are less deadly. Um, uh, it still makes personal sense for folks that are older and with comorbidities. I think it's less critical for some healthcare providers. I was just looking at an email from I work as a doctor in a county system in California, and where the COVID vaccine and initial boosters were required. Nowadays, it's encouraged but not required. And so I think we're adjusting as the state of the illness adjusts. But so it is a personal decision, and it also takes into account, are you going to be spending time with elderly family, even if you're not a healthcare provider, who may be at risk and stuff like that? So take that all and chew on that for a while. When I'm talking to my patients to decide. But in the meantime, also, yes, like Rive says, to focus on personal health. We know that people with more and more comorbidities are an increased risk for severe illness and death from both flu and COVID.
Great, thank you. All right. Any other questions waiting for us?
Hi, Sophie. Thanks for checking in. Sophie is my sister-in-law, checking in from Florida. So thank you for saying hi, Sophie. And then Dr. Sawyer added, she just got Yes, we'll definitely hear your question. Dr. Sawyer said she got mine, so since she does travel, good friend of mine was in Canada and hospitalized for 5 days with severe COVID, still recovering. Agree, talk with your doc about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
She said her friend was traveling and was previously healthy. So yeah, you can certainly still get sick, uh, really sick, even as a healthy 30-year-old from any of these. But yeah. So take into
Yeah,
account
and
your
and
own
I mean
health.
also, yeah, and also just remembering to do what you can to make sure that your immune system is healthy, and that's taking good care of yourself, eating a healthy diet, getting a good quality sleep, all of those things that will further help, whether you decide to get a flu vaccine or not. It's still best to get your body in the best, healthiest position possible, so that if you do get sick, that you have a really healthy immune system to help fight that. Okay, and then I think that we had an off the wall question, if I saw that flash on the
We
screen.
love off the wall questions. Yes, I think Sophie's going to put it in her chat, and we will be happy to answer it. As long as it's not something like, like some money I forgot to pay you back or something like that. I can't. Oh, here we go.
All right. So Sophie says, I have been trying to move to a complete plant-based diet. So far, Jeff's advice has helped me manage my, what does that say?
CFS is probably chronic fatigue syndrome, and ME. Sophie, remind me. She'll throw it in there. Okay, but we'll get back to that. And then,
Okay.
what can I replace chicken with?
Oh, that's a good question. Do you want to go first or shall I?
Well, she hears from me all the time, so she should hear from a pro. You go.
From a pro. Okay. So I would say, I guess it depends on what you're looking for. So chicken, are you looking to replace that texture because you want to have something similar to what you're used to? Are you looking to replace, trying to find a protein? Because a lot of people look at their plate and they say, oh, I got my veggies, I've got my protein. And really having a piece of chicken is, you are getting protein, but you're also getting a lot of fat, saturated fat as well. So it's not just protein. But if you're wanting to make sure that you have a good source of protein, um, so I would say beans are a really good plant-based source of protein. So making sure that and there's so many different beans out there, lentils and black beans and azuki beans and so many different kinds that you can choose from. That would be a good protein source. And then also remembering that all plant foods have protein. So there are going to be some plant foods that have more protein than others, but all of them do have some protein in them. So but if you're looking at the texture and you're wanting a replacement, a lot of people will choose, say, soy products. And I don't mean the highly processed soy meats or anything like that, but I mean um, tempeh or tofu. Those can be marinated and made really delicious. Uh, and that would be a really good replacement because then you're getting the benefits of soy. Soy has a lot of health benefits. And then I would say slightly more processed, but not terrible, would be a product called soy curls, and that is made by Butler Foods. It's the only ingredient is edamame, so it's just soybeans. But they do have to heat it to get it to be this kind of chewy chicken-like texture. So if you're looking for something, say, maybe you're trying to switch over your family and you don't, you want them to have something that they recognize that seems very similar, that one is very easy to, I would say, fool people with because it's so similar to a meat texture. So those would be the things that I would recommend for not only the texture, but also just that protein.
That's great.
What do
I
you
love
think?
that. Yes, I love that. And while you were answering that question so well and thoroughly, I looked up in me myalgic encephalomyelitis, which is often paired with chronic fatigue syndrome. Um, yeah, what can we do to help maximize health with making sure we're getting enough protein? Which, by the way, most people do get plenty of protein, right? We're mostly deficient in fiber in the United States, but uh, when I think of texture, I think of mushrooms. I don't think of mushrooms as
Mm.
a replacement for chicken, but for texture, it can be quite nice. And so if you make a dish that has mushrooms for the texture part, and then you have something else that you're getting a good source of protein from, right? So you make your stir fry with last night I made eggplant, pepper, tomato, mushroom, green beans on, maybe you could put it on quinoa, which quinoa as a whole grain is a great source for protein. Or maybe you also have soybeans in that meal. So the thing that's adding texture doesn't necessarily, I suppose, have to also be high in protein. But all those that you gave, Dr. Davis, are awesome suggestions. Um, and I hope that Sophie says thanks. So I think those were some suggestions. Thanks, Dr. Davis, and thank you, Sophie, for tuning in.
Yeah, and thank you, Dr. Scheuer, for tuning in as well. And it sounds like we're making her hungry with all this talk about food.
Mhm.
All right, and I guess any other questions? Anything else? I don't know that we have any more questions today. So we try to do these Q&As every month, and you can always submit questions ahead of time. So if you want to make sure that your question is answered during the next one, feel free to submit that early. And we would be happy to talk through however many questions that we can get to.
It looks like maybe we have time for one more, Dr. Davis.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, Anthony, you want to throw in that question from Rosie? Great.
All right. So for someone who's had a kidney stone, calcium oxalate stone, what leafy greens do you recommend? I've heard spinach should be avoided. Yeah, what do you think, Dr. Pierce? Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So, high oxalate greens. Take a step back. Greens are one of the healthiest foods on the planet, right? We should be eating greens every day. Throw them in your smoothie. Some crazy people like Dr. Sawyer put them on their oats in the morning. Have them for lunch, have them for dinner as part of your meal. They fit with just about everything you can imagine. If you grow any food, they grow some greens, because that is a constant source of nutrition, and they're not going to get all wilty and soggy in the back of your refrigerator. So a huge fan of greens. Some greens have higher oxalate levels than others. The classic ones are spinach and beet greens and chard. And so, theoretically, if you eat a lot of oxalate rich greens, a couple things: they hold on to their calcium a little bit more, so you're less likely to get the calcium benefits from those greens. And maybe you can also be more likely to develop kidney stones. I believe that there's only been just a few case reports put in the literature. So it's like, oh, this happened to this person and this happened to that person, of eating just cups a day, every day, of high oxalate greens, and then they get a kidney stone. But if you've had a kidney stone and you want to be as careful as possible, I would say those three that I mentioned, spinach, beet greens, and chard, you can still eat, but just don't eat cups a day. And if you want to focus on other greens, there's just a whole bunch. And I'm gonna pass the torch to Dr. Davis to go from there.
Yeah, so I would say that, typically when we're thinking about kidney stones, one of the main things that people can do is make sure that they're staying well hydrated, drinking enough water. That's really one of the big ones. And there hasn't really been good data to support reducing oxalates in the diet to help prevent kidney stones. So even though it does seem to make sense, it just really hasn't been shown to be reproducible on a larger scale. Um, so it is something that you kind of have to decide for yourself or talk to your doctor about whether or not it makes sense for you to try reducing that. But you make such a good point that greens are so healthy that the last thing we want is for people to say, oh, I can't have greens anymore, because I've had kidney stones. You don't want to be removing all of these healthy foods from your diet. So you could come up with a plan that maybe, like you said, just removes the ones that are just especially high in oxalates if you just can't get these kidney stones under control. But there are so many other things that you can do to help prevent kidney stones. That is not just removing leafy greens from your diet. So overall, I definitely agree, and I think, but it is worth talking to your doctor about because it's not super clear that it's helpful.
Mm. Awesome. Dr. Scheuer throws in there that the boiling and the steaming of those high oxalate greens will bring down the oxalate levels. So that's a great one. So maybe having them cooked instead of raw. And then, there's like a list longer than your arm of other greens that you can have be the majority of your greens from, uh, you know, uh, kale. Has anyone heard of kale? It's kind of a new food. No, I was kidding. So kale and collards and bok choy and pak choy and Malabar spinach and all these other kinds of greens that are out there. Actually, I don't know the oxalate levels of Malabar spinach, but all the brassica type family, the broccoli greens and the cauliflower greens and the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera are great.
I love baby bok choy. That's something I always have in my fridge. All right. Okay. Well, I think that wraps us up for today on the Q&A. Our next one, let's see. I don't know if Anthony knows if he can post that, but I know it's in November. Maybe I can find it before he does. Do you
Yep.
happen to know, Dr.
The
Pierce,
next
when we're,
the
oh,
next Niki Davis show.
yep, Thursday, November 13th. So
Yes.
that'll be our next live Q&A, and it's going to be at noon Mountain Time, so 11 a.m. Pacific Time, and we look forward to seeing you then. So thank you so much, Dr. Pierce, for joining me again today. I always have so much fun talking to you and answering these questions the best way that we can, without giving specific medical advice, of course, but hopefully it's beneficial for those of you who watch or rewatch. We'll always post these so that you can rewatch them later. But make sure that you come and visit us at our website, so lifestyletelemedicine.com. And you can also, in addition to that, give us a call. You can talk to Susan and find out more about us. Our number is 888-420-7284. We would love to talk to you. We work really hard to make sure that we can cover all the states in the United States and international. So for most people right now, you can find a doctor that will cover your state. And we're always making sure that we are working toward that 50 state mark as much as possible. If you are someone who is already whole food plant-based and doing really well, having a supportive doctor may be beneficial, just to have somebody who you can talk to and get those annual labs done. But you might also be somebody who's in the middle of transitioning, just like Sophie was mentioning earlier, and you need some help with that transition and figuring out kind of some of those tweaks and things that can work to make this more sustainable and easier to follow. And then there are those people out there that are like, is this for me? I'm not sure. I'm sick of being on 10 medications. You can come and visit us as well. We would be happy to help out with making a really good, solid plan for you on how to be successful with making some of these significant lifestyle changes, like moving to a whole food plant-based diet, increasing your daily movement, getting good quality sleep, managing stress, those kinds of things. And of course, if you're on medications and you're sick of being on medications, we can help with that. You know, there are going to be medications that as you make those improvements, you can reduce or get off of. So we are very well trained in doing that. All right. So again, visit us at lifestyletelemedicine.com and you can look at all of the different doctors that are part of our group and choose which doctor works best for you or covers your state. And of course, we will see you next time on the next Q&A on November 13th. All right. Thanks. Thanks, Dr.
Bye.
Pierce. Thanks, everyone.